and they understand the cost that is involved. There's 1,000 of you. I said close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. It's 1,000 that's watching online. This is a small seed. If I get 1,000 online to give this, if I get 1,000 in the sanctuary to give this, that's $40,000 tonight. Now, everyone up here, we've all sold and seeded, but I need everyone standing up here with us, with me, to plant a seed of $100. Because again, it costs to sit up here. And this is what I need you to do. If you're giving electronically, or even if you're giving tangibly, I'm gonna have y'all come to the altar and give it, because I need to see 1,000 people moving. Bring them baskets. I want the baskets up here. I want to see the folk. Y'all start moving. Y'all can bring it right now. Come. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people online need to give $20. This is easy, saints.
Behind that. What was the context behind why he was asking them for money?
Greed.
Yeah, give your time.
Ain't that like they always?
The service was over. He was still asking for coins.
What do you mean close the door?
Who's the close the doors for me?
Yeah.
Close the discussion. What?
That's where it gets out of hand right there.
Get the collection plate on the other side.
How many times has he done that? And how many people really sent that money?
Many times.
I done seen that happen in real life.
We gotta do one mic, y'all, because I can't hear all y'all. Who wanna go first?
First of all, he gonna be the first ever pastor to get a RICO charge. All right, I'm gonna put it out there first. Okay, that was definitely kidnapping. Okay, like nigga said, shut the door. That's 1,000 kidnapping charges. He definitely gonna do some time. The nigga turned the pool pit into a skybox. Okay, they got to give $100, and if you in the audience, you got to pay $20. And I ain't for the hop on the religion, cause Anton my guy, and we ain't gonna go down there tonight. But hey, yeah, y'all ain't looking too good on the Christian side of the game. That's all I got to say, man.
Can we talk about religion?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I'm very religious.
Yo, that was a legal robbery that we saw on display live on television. I ain't never seen nothing like that before.
Yeah,
to me, it's the audacity to ask something like that, because I don't think what he did has any like ramifications on the Christian community or whatever. But how he done that was straight up wrong. If you can't ask somebody to give out of the kindness of their heart, because as a man he did that. Let's be real. I wouldn't blame Christians for how he behaved. You see what I'm saying? But that's borderline kidnapping. You talk about locking the doors. You're trying to force these people to give you money. It's out of pocket.
Borderline kidnapping.
Doors.
I think sometimes when it comes to ministry, it's like a sheep mentality, and they take advantage of vulnerable people. So everybody who stayed when he said shut the door was vulnerable people, and so he got what he wanted. And that was that.
This time, the whole church is vulnerable. Okay. Now, y'all know my stand. I say, it's a cult. It's a cult. y'all ain't gonna agree with that, but y'all be in that bitch. One Sunday out the year,
What's your definition of cult? What's your definition of cult?
Whenever you got to drink somebody's blood and you got to eat somebody's body. That's like
a blood cult.
That's an extreme example of
how's that extreme? Okay,
a blood cult is that in which where you drink blood and eat.
Hey, that's a Marvin Sapp religion he got going on. Think about that. All the people sending that money to him. They wasn't really held against his will.
No, he didn't say lock them in. He just said close the doors.
Like, what do you mean?
Why do the doors need to be closed? So people won't leave.
So you can't leave.
No, that's not why he said to close.
But they could. Them people really could have left. We're not finna like he really just locked them in. Some people want to give out all that money with the kindness of their heart, straight to God. They said, you know what?
He's sticking to the ushers like real lock the doors. Like,
we got to do
he
one
wanted their money and even insulted them and said, all y'all gonna do is go to the restaurant anyway. Like, nah.
Was he wrong?
And even the ones online, he's using what they believe in to get their money. So it's still foul. He should say what the goal is if there's a goal. Now, the part where he's saying if 100 people gave $20, right? And then he start giving 1,000 people gave a 20 bucks, I think. If he starts doing that, that's just giving goals. That's easy to do. That's fine. But when you start getting into, you should give it because God's going to be happy with you or not be happy with you if you don't give it, lock the doors. All these things are emotional pleading and using their spirituality against them. And that's completely wrong.
But he never said lock the door. He just said close the door.
What, you think he was trying to keep the air in the church or something, Q? What do you mean?
No.
Come on now.
We have
Are we gonna play some word semantics on locked or closed?
Yes, it's the big difference.
No, it ain't.
Yes, it is.
No, he said. Why do you think he said to close the door? What would that imply? Him saying close the doors? He's saying that means don't allow anyone to leave, right?
No, that's totally different. Closing the door and locking the door is totally two.
So then why does he have to say close the
You meant
door?
for them to lock them doors.
In true,
No, why does he have to
And
say
in front of it.
No, in true church fashion, when they close the doors, they don't want any movement. They don't want anybody
in that
to.
vicinity.
That is
Right, they want
the
everybody to stay
significance
right
of closing doors in a church. That's
Mhm.
just how it is. They don't want you
It
to
means
move.
stay still, right? Nobody out, nobody
Until
in.
he get his 40,000. Oh,
Go ahead, Jess.
It shows the seriousness of the situation. Like close those doors.
I'm already knowing what happened. His ticket didn't hit. He was messed up. I'm
You know
saying
what? I disagree with all of y'all. That's not to say that Marvin Sapp. I was about to say Marvin Gaye, y'all, but that's not to say Marvin Sapp. The whole thing about him asking for money, let's set that aside. And we're gonna talk about optics here, right? Because a lot of times we base our opinion off of clips and short clips that we see on social media. We were not there at that service. As someone who has been a victim of having my clips clipped to give a version of what happened that didn't truly happen, it changes the way you think about a certain situation. So one, y'all weren't there. Let's be clear about that.
So he justified?
Two, let's just say this. I grew up in the church, and it seems to be that he's one of the seasoned members who grew up in old school church. And when you close the doors, that does imply no movement. We need everybody to be focused. We need everybody to bring this on in. I agree. Close the doors and lock the doors. They are not synonymous, y'all.
Jess.
Does not mean the same thing.
Yo.
I don't think he was holding these people hostage, but I'm talking objectively here.
Yes.
I do think that he was trying to get certain things in decency and in order. This is me being able to look at it objectively, whether I agree or disagree.
You playing devil's advocate. That man is robbing.
Jess. He would ask me for that.
Robbing aside, though, we're not talking about robbing. We talking about the church of the
You're muted, Anton.
I
What's
never
the difference? Just because he robbed him.
I said, let her finish. We got to have one.
Y'all on mic, y'all.
I'm talking about money aside, y'all. So what we gonna touch on? We're gonna touch on the money, or we're gonna touch on the door. Because I do think that those two, I'm looking at it objectively about the door. I don't think he was locking the people in, but I think he was trying to call order. And two, we weren't there. So what I'm saying is, don't solely base your opinion off of a short clip and you weren't there. As someone, like I said, someone who has experienced that, who has had a different reality of what actually happened versus what y'all saw. Like, I understand it and I can get that, whether I agree or disagree.
Man, listen, I don't have to see the whole clip for a bank robber to walk in and say freeze.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let me add some additional context since Jess said what she said. So I went and researched it, and I found the whole clip from 2024. And then I also found an interview that he did actually today, him explaining the context of what it is. So the context is, and I don't know if this changes the conversation for y'all a little bit, because I haven't given my opinion yet, but I'm gonna just give objective facts. The context is that he didn't get any of the money. It wasn't for him. It wasn't in his church. It was at a conference where it was a bunch of other speakers. And apparently they were trying to raise money to cover the cost of the conference, in which a whole lot of churches actually came and participated from a lot of different places. That's number one. Number two, Marvin Sapp, he actually started a church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in which he pastored it, but he's never taken a dime or gotten payment from that church at all. And he used to put his own money up because he sold millions of records. And at one point he said that he was, and this is out of his own mouth, he said at one point he was tithing at least $30,000 a month to make sure that he got the church established. And then he gave it over into another pastor to pastor it because he decided that he was going to move to Texas, and he never got a dime from it. So I think we can talk about optics. We can talk about a lot of things. I think it's a little disingenuous to say it's a shakedown without seeing the whole clip. And I think that's the part that Jess is saying, is that in the full context, he didn't get any of the money. And more importantly, I think that to assassinate its character versus actually talking about the complexities of why the black church is dying is two different conversations.
Okay.
Nobody brought that point up actually. And y'all, listen, y'all got to stop caping for God, okay? We
To
seen
say you just talk about the bank robber example. So which one is it?
That looks crazy, yo.
We seen what we seen, okay?
That looks crazy.
We
I
seen
know it might be out of
Within
context.
Within context, because
Man.
hey, look, I done been a preacher. I done been all up in the church, right? I know how this happens. You can't invite a preacher to your church. Donations have been low. Tithes have been low. So you invite someone to the church. Hopefully they can light a spark, and they can come in with this passion to try and help you, get your finances. The money's not for him within context. I can't call that a shakedown, not within the context, but I could say that is typical type behavior from the pulpit, because in the church I have seen that where they're more serious about the giving, where they will do something like close the doors. It's not to rob you. It's just the point where most of the time the congregation during that time start getting up and scooting out at that time. So a seasoned preacher like himself, he probably felt like, hey, I can tell you guys to hold off. Y'all need to hear me real quick. It's not that hard. If everybody give a little bit, we can have a lot. I get that.
But let me ask a question.
And I wouldn't hold it against his character either, like Anton said, because again, that's typical of what you get in the ministry.
Then what is the money for? Where is it?
Wrong. That's what I was saying
This
earlier.
is the thing. I grew up in
against Christianity.
When it comes down to offering, isn't there supposed to be a designated time for offering?
There we go.
Is
it depends on that service.
That wasn't a normal.
With the conference.
I'm gonna give my opinion.
The conference was over.
I want to make sure that we understand the context. That wasn't a regular church service. That was a conference.
And it's depending on the service, those offerings, they could be at any time.
So if that was a conference, where does that money go to if you didn't get none of that money? Where did it land? I think you explained it, but
that invited them. A lot of times churches will invite major big time preachers like that because it does bring in funding.
Okay, I'm saying, so it's going towards the church?
Just to get them at the church.
It depends on the conference. All conferences are different. It could be speakers. It could be the venue. It can be it's all different. We don't know.
So listen, so a church conference is the what a festival is what a church conference is. Okay, but the thing is, when you book a festival, you have to pay them artists. All right, if you booking these preachers, they need to be already paid. You don't need to be trying to get your back end right there from the crowd. That's
not entirely true.
That's not acceptable.
Ain't that how them pastors make their money? Don't they really take them offering money?
There's a lot of pastors.
They pay a certain amount to get you there, and that's up to you how
don't
much
make money from being a pastor. There's a lot of pastors that have regular jobs, or they are successful in other ways. I've been to a church where I used to go to a church where the pastor was actually an automotive executive, and he never took one dime at all. So that's what I'm saying. I think that the conversation is being lost. People are so focused on whether or not he got money or he got money out of it versus the perception of it and what exactly that we need to do, which this would completely preclude 2K out of the conversation because he don't even believe in God. But this would actually change the dynamics of the conversation of what needs to happen in order to present better optics, number one. And then number two, whether or not men actually are going to and participating in Christianity in the right way. Because honestly, in my opinion, I think that is what's wrong with the majority of society today, is because all of our laws are, honest to God, actually coming from the church here in America.
What?
The foundation of everything that we do here in America is all based off of law that is established by the church.
No, it ain't.
You can believe whatever you want to believe, but I'm telling you that it is all established by the church. The church has historically been the most powerful thing of any country, and in certain countries is still at the head of everything that is done. And that's one of the reasons why people still acknowledge the Catholic Church, for example. And I'm not going to go into the different religions and the history behind it. But if you're not a believer, then you wouldn't understand it, because that would mean that you never researched it to understand exactly what role the church played in developing what's happening here in the United States of America as far as the laws that we still abide by.
I would agree. I mean,
I certainly wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree. The church has had a lot of power in moving laws. He's not wrong. And I would say it should raise the conversation on, do people believe in giving anymore? Maybe they don't trust their organization. Of course, a lot of people look at the Bible particularly, and they see that a lot of preachers use giving of monies, and they flip what was for food as money. A lot of people realize that they're using a lot of text to flip them. But I think all in all, we got to talk about how they're requesting funds. I mean, that's a little bit much the way he requested funds, even though we know that's typical. I mean, it happens often.
You know, I agree with that. I think that the way that that's what I'm saying. I think that the way that, especially the Black church, goes about participating, I think that it's a lot wrong with the Black church. I don't like the fact that they participate so heavily in politics. I don't like the fact that anybody can get up on the pulpit. I don't like the fact that both the small church and the big church panders to women versus actually not pandering, but actually, you know, trying to speak to the demographic that we need to save the most, which is the head of the household. And I think that those are really the reasons why. And more importantly, the optics behind how he went about doing it, which is easy to clip up, but at the same time, it's still bad optics, is one of the reasons why Black men are deciding to divest themselves against the church, which also plays a role in whether or not our families are what they are supposed to be. Because honestly, with the way that we are and the godless ways in which we live our lives, and the fact that they remove prayer out of schools and all of that, is one of the reasons why y'all families is fucked up.
Yeah, nobody has any more values. If I'm adding on to what he's saying, nobody has any.
I think it's through lack of discipline, but you know,
people don't trust the church because they don't know where the money's going. They feel like people finessing them.
Church and how they do things.
Well, I think that people don't trust the church because they never actually even been. Most of the people that speak on the church don't even know exactly what's going on in the church. And every church is not the same. There are some good people. There are some really, really strong people that have dedicated their lives and do not even take a dime from the church. So I think that, you know, we think that the church is a monolith, but it's not. It's absolutely not. There's some really good places. But again, most people are looking for an excuse not to get their lives together, which is one of the reasons why they don't participate in the first place.
And so they got really good teachers, and then they got really, really bad ones. Okay.
There's different cultures of church too.
It's listen. Listen.
It doesn't determine your moral compass either.
It don't. I hate having this church discussion.
You don't believe in God, so how can you have it?
Yeah, how can you believe in God? How is this nigga all powerful but can't seem to manage money?
I believe in God, but that's different.
No, just answer that. Like I'm big on common sense. God is all powerful, all knowing.
Well, that's why it says that His ways are so far from your ways.
Money.
But your form of common sense, most people don't even have any logic behind justifying what makes common sense common sense. Common sense ain't even common anymore. So listen to me. I'm one of the last niggas with it. How come God can't balance the books? Why he taking money from us?
Okay, now look,
look, because God did give us a piece of Him. We are a piece of God with free will. Man does corrupt things. God didn't intend everything to be like this. Man,
outside of God being real or not. Sorry, say what?
Y'all do know churches are nonprofits, right?
That's but now
have to get paid for it.
So not one person. So you telling me a pastor? So you telling me just
so how we gonna pay for stuff?
2K, do you believe that a correlation to God existing is money?
No. I don't believe nothing about God. If you can't prove anything
about God, that's fine.
You can't prove.
Do you understand that money is not a correlation to God?
How?
Capability of a person is not in correlation to God.
See, here's the thing. That's where it gets, because it kind of is. You think about this. Now, this isn't technically in the Bible, but preachers spin it to make it sound like it is, and that's where a lot of confusion comes in, which is why people don't give today. It says, bring the meat into the storehouse so that you may have food, right? Bread, so that you may have bread. Okay, it says bread, but a lot of preachers will skew that and say it says money. So they say give 10% of your money. God will replace that, restore that, press down, shaking together, and running over. So if you got all of these people who've been given tithes, right, 10% of their earnings for years and years and years, and they're still in their current situation, you can see why they give up on giving tithes and say, Ain't no God in this. And then when you read the scripture itself, you can see that preachers are manipulating it to say that, because nowhere does God ask you for your money by way of cursing you or blessing you.
Can I ask?
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. If you are a person that tithe, but you're doing it in order to get something in return, then you're doing it the wrong way in the first place.
Absolutely.
Because I still tithe every single week, but I don't necessarily tithe to a church.
But Anton, that's how the
My point is that if somebody wanted to actually do something for other people, which I don't believe that it has to necessarily go to a church, they would still do it regardless of whether or not they decided to no longer participate in the church, is my point. I don't believe that people don't give because of that reason. I believe that people don't give because it's not in their heart to do so and they don't understand the word, which is not being preached correctly.